Yeah, everybody, it's ZG. So, I don't want to be extra or anything, but I just, taken taken some fucking acid, lysergic. Went to take it about 6 this morning. It's 3:53 now. Still tripping, but it's fucking crazy, I want to talk about, I want to just, talk about the trip, talk about what's been going on because it's been really interesting. Um, it's really different to weed, really different to weed in a lot of ways, and it's sort of because it affects entirely different parts of your brain. Um, it kind of it feels like it's much more playful than weed, or we feel basically everything that acid is, weed is, but in a different way. Like it's kind of like there's these. I feel like there's these two. This is quite deep. I feel like there's these two basic modes of seeing the world, and one is egocentrical, and one is kind of basically one is the inside world, and one is the outside world. And I feel like acid is a lot more focused on the outside world, and it makes I find it's actually a lot easier to interact with the outside world on acid for some reason. I've been just kind of sitting in my room, to be honest, because I don't want to do much. But maybe that's a bit of a contradiction, to be honest, actually. But it feels better, when you're really stoned. You just kind of want to sit there and just do nothing. Acid gives you a lot of energy. Like I've been thinking about things, plans that I've got coming up. I'm feeling really excited to do it, and all that is really amazing. It's quite interesting to see how your brain works as well. It's obviously activating different cortexes, more sort of social, interpersonal cortexes, that make you feel those kind of feelings of like, kind of excitement to do things with your mates and stuff. Yeah, the visuals are really cool. It's sort of like, it's like, Google Deep Dream. It's literally like everything's been Google Deep Dreamed a little bit. If you don't know what it is, you need to Google it. But like, it literally looks just like that. It's maybe not as intense as that. Maybe like a tenth as intense. But just if I stare at something, it kind of it does that kind of Google Deep Dreamy thing, and it's really cool. It's really easy. It's actually really easy to talk for some reason, and I'm not really thinking about what I'm saying. Now I'm thinking about it. It's getting harder, but yeah, it's fucking crazy. I was just like drawing, and I remember I felt like my consciousness was just sort of like melting. It was just totally, and I kind of just thought, like, I fucking get it now. And I mean, like, I don't get it, but maybe that's it. You have to get that you don't get it. But I don't know. I kind of it's a really weird feeling. Like, I think it's just the first time trying a new substance. You get that sort of like, oh, I've never been to this place before, kind of thing. Like, first time you try weed, it's just a place you've never been to, but it does feel kind of familiar, and I think that's because, without getting pseudoscientific, I think it's you experience it when you're about to go to sleep and when you're just about waking up. You ever kind of wake up in the middle of the night, half wake up, and those can be quite psychedelic experiences. And I think that's how people are introduced to that kind of experience normally, is by those kinds of things without even realizing it. You can sometimes wake up from an incredibly psychedelic kind of half dream, and everything just seems really, really kind of, your perspective on life just seems altered for some reason. And you can't tell why. No, I think it's this is pretty cool. I've just been for a walk. I forgot what I was saying. I'm getting pretty. The patterns are dying down, but I think now I've gone for a walk. They've kind of intensified a bit. It's really cool. Everything looks really geometric. Really geometric. All the lines and edges and things are intensified. Everything's kind of. That's another thing with the difference between acid and weed. Weed's very far away, quite like a faint, spaced out. acid's interesting because I'm saying all this stuff about acid, but like I'm not an experienced tripper, so it might not. This is just first experience. Um, Everything's sort of really vivid and here and present, and that's kind of why you have lots of energy. But it's also totally crazy and out there, and you just don't understand it. But it's here, you know. With weed, it's kind of, you feel like you're trying to grasp these like mighty things out there, and you can just kind of get the essence of it. But with acid, it's sort of different because those things are brought here, they're brought to you, and you can kind of see, or you don't see them, but they kind of are present. They are the essence of this moment. That's really interesting. It's very hard to actually. Well, it's actually not very hard to explain. I don't think it's very hard to explain, but that's because I'm kind of tripping a bit now, tripping quite a lot now actually, and it seems a lot more. It's a lot. I'm in that state of mind. I can picture it. Like once you've been into an altered state of mind, it's kind of you can't really picture it when you're not in that state of mind, but you kind of can get an essence of it, you get a gist of it. Like trying to describe what it's like to be really stoned, somebody's never been stoned before, or to be really high, on anything when somebody's never done that before. It'd be really hard because they'd be thinking of it, just trying to piece it together, imagine it as we do from aspects of their everyday life, which is kind of a totally different ballpark. So like, it's kind of like trying to make a stack of trying to stack. It's like trying to stack paper, make a cube out of paper, but you can't stack the paper vertically. You just have to do it side by side. It's on the same plane. This experiences are on a different level. I'm getting pretty intense trails now. That's really cool. Yeah, I need to stop recording in a sec because this is cray cray. But I'm gonna go watch some Black Mirror. I was thinking about Black Mirror actually. I was watching a White Bear. That's it. That's got some really interesting themes in it. There's the whole. I don't know how I didn't notice before, but obviously she was convicted for killing a child, and there's, they're basically trying to kind of parallel it, and you can see it like she is in the woods backs that represents her. It's that's quite deep, but also it's interesting how I think you can get people to go along with anything as long as they think it's like the majority opinion. I think that's how like the Nazis and stuff got in power, because if everyone you knew was a Nazi, and like everyone, all the government was Nazi, every authority figure you could turn to for advice was a Nazi, and was saying we need to kill the Jews, and you'd say to your mates, oh, I think maybe we shouldn't, because genocide is kind of a bad thing normally, and they'd ostracize you. It'd be like going to your mates today and saying, oh, you know what, cannibalism, yeah, I want to try that, so like what people do, I think, is entirely based on, or is based maybe just majority on what other people are doing, not their actual opinion. And it's interesting. I was watching Minefield. It's about how beliefs reinforce. New episode of Minefield about how beliefs reinforce when they fed people dollar bills into like a box at 30-second intervals, and but they didn't tell the people this. They just said they told people they had to try and get as much money as they could, and the people started recognizing all the thinking they were doing things and forming superstitions. And it's interesting how those things, like emergence, things can reinforce each other. So it's interesting how one person believes the thing, and then somehow that cascades, and then suddenly a whole population is following a thing, which is actually really interesting. Like, what does it take? Is there like a specific combination of things? Maybe we could like study some of the world's greatest tyrants to like find out what that combination of things is. Like maybe Hitler. He was in many ways probably. I mean, this is a bit of a taboo thing to say because it should be. In many ways, he was kind of a kind of an anti-genius. He was as in he was very good at manipulating people and getting people to do his will, and he knew how to tick the buttons of the zeitgeist to kind of get them to go along with it. And he had to trigger that domino effect of getting everyone to say no. If anyone criticised him, they'd be exiled, which is really interesting. That's no, that's the main thing I'm actually thinking about is just like what kind of like what is all these? There's all these, so what are, it's hard to explain. Like it's kind of more like what is the concept of cool? I suppose. Well, not cool, but like there's this whole part of humanity that of like the kind of social aspect of like how people see us and how we're seen by people, and it's just interesting how that works because when you get down to it, all of who you are is formed by how other people see you, but also how they are is formed, like how they are is formed by how you and how everyone else sees them. So it's this kind of positive backing up like a web, which is really interesting. Yeah, trying to describe it. I forgot what I was saying. Something about a web. Um, it's like how people see you. You need to get back on the train of thought. Um, yeah. Sometimes you lose it and be like that. I suppose it's just everything's arbitrary. Is what is the was the take home message. All this stuff is all this, emotions like anxiety about social ostracism or being rejected by your mates or whatever. Being losing friends. It's all just an arbitrary like release of chemicals. But so is everything. I think that's kind of the meaning of life. To be honest, I'd say the meaning of life is. I thought of this in the woods. I quite like it. It's just find patterns that release positive hormones, which sounds super extra now. I've built it up so much, so maybe now it's not a good thing. That's the only thing I think of. Is it true? Is it possible to be truly like not extra at all? Like not try. If I'm guessing what extra means properly, is it is it possible to truly not try to be impressing anyone? Because I don't think it is. Because even if you're not, the fact that you're thinking about how little you're trying to impress people is, what you're trying to impress people by showing off how little you care, which obviously means that you care. Because if you actually didn't care, then you wouldn't worry about that. I wonder if anyone out there is truly like just doesn't care what people think. I think Alan Watts has it figured out. I've been listening to a lot of Alan Watts. That's fucking deep. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna go because finally, as I said I would like 5 minutes ago, I'm gonna go watch the Black Mirror. So see you in a bit, babes. Love you.